Hey, imagine I ask you to create a SysOperation using a multi-select selection records of a form data source. How would you do that? Would you try to use directly the form data source as some data member in the data contract, or how? Well, that's what we are going to see in depth in this video. Welcome and follow me in this learning path. We are going to see different options and to discard them, but during the process we are going to learn a few key concepts that I think they are going to be helpful for you. At the end, of course, I'll give you the option I would go with at the end, and yeah, follow me for learning together. Here we are in the sales table list page form. We've added a menu item, and the idea is that we want to do a SysOperation framework that's going to use the selected records in the active form. So this we are going to need to use the form data source some way and send it to our SysOperation. So maybe the first implementation we might think about is to add the form data source as a data member in our data contract class, but this is not going to work. Let's see how, when I try to use the SysOperation with a data member of type data source, form data source, this is going to be the error that it's going to be thrown. Why is this happening? Well, this happens because if we go to the Microsoft documentation, the types that are supported as data members in our data contracts are or either primitive types, extended data types, enumerations, collections of elements of the same type, and of course, if I put a form data source inside a collection, it's not going to be supported neither. So, and also tables and views. So that's the explanation why we cannot add the form data source. We could do it if we want, but not as data member. If we clear the data member, this is not going to throw an error, and if in the controller we get the calling form data source and send it to our data contract, this is going to work as long as this SysOperation is executed as is not executed as in an asynchronous way. So either batch or asynchronous execution is going to lose the information we put into the data contract of those variables or objects that are not data members. Because when the service is going to be executed, it's going to pack all the data members and unpack them. So all the information in our data contract that is not in a data member is going to be lost. So if the good option or the good path here is to add it to an array or a container. But if you want to use the form data source because you say, yeah, the form data source has already the list and I don't want to loop through that form data source to create a container or to create an array, and after that loop the array and blah blah blah. Well, as we've seen, we could use also as the sales table, and so you might be tempted to, instead of sending the form data source, to send, for example, the sales table here like this. Yeah, but this is not going to work. Like, it's going to work in the synchronous executions, because this is not going to throw any error. But yeah, the information about the form data source, because the idea here, or the possible hack, would be to use the form data source attached to that record, and that only works if it's executed as synchronous, in a synchronous way. So for example here, instead of getting the form data source like that, we could do parm sales table, and we could use the form data util get form data source. But if we do that, we should ensure that this has form that data source. This form data util is form data source. Yes. Perfect. So now what we are doing is to retrieve the form data source related to the sales table. And this is going to work, and you might think, oh, I've done it. Fernie said you couldn't do it using directly the form data source, but I hacked it and do it. No, you didn't. Like, you can do it, but if you use always async, like if you are creating a SysOperation and you are constraining it to be used only in an async mode, that you can do it. For example, putting the batch job execution can go batch to false, and if you always call it as async, you could use this method. But if you want to do it more flexible and to be able to be executed in a async way without losing the information, then you are going to need to do the array solution or container solution. Yeah, here I have to modify this too. This part is simpler this way because the extra complexity is in the service now about getting the table related form data source. Form data source, sorry. I tend to say data instead of data. Okay. So let's now test the sales table, getting the form data source from the sales table tricky solution. I insist we need to execute it not as a batch job, because in that case we will lose the information of the form data source attached to the record. Yeah, so here we are, it's working, but if we do it in batch mode, and we add the breakpoint here, you're going to see how the sales table related form data source that it's working in the async way, it's going to stop working in the batch mode, and it's working in the sync way, and it's going to stop working in the async way. Here it is, it's stopped, and even when we've received, oh, I forgot to put the data member here. But of course, the idea of replacing the form data source by the sales table and getting the form data source the other way is to be able to add the data member. So I'm going to add it and testing it after that. There you are. We have executed in batch. Look how we are attached to the batch service. And here we can see that we have the sales table record, but when I try to recover the form data source, it's not going to be possible. Why? Because this is executed in batch. So the information that was sent was the sales table, but the form data source does not exist anymore. There's no related form data source to that sales table. So yeah, we are doomed to create or fulfill a list in the controller to be sent to the contract, and so having, for example, all the rec IDs of the sales table records that we want to use in our service. Here you are the approach I recommend, because it's the easiest and more flexible approach. That it's to use a container. I think we can use an array according to the Microsoft documentation, but usually if we are not using many records, a container should be fine. It's the easiest way to work with it. You only have to take care of only adding the rec IDs in this case, and so we receive in the contracts the color record. We get the data source from the color record. Instead of getting directly the data source from the args, what I do is to use the record, and so this code is like reusable. We don't have to, or it doesn't need to be called from a specific form and to get from the form data source string method, but any color record that it's a sales table, so any form that has the data source sales table can call this, and so we can get the active or the current form data source for that specific color record. And we use the multi-selection helper. We loop through all the records, and we add them to our container. Our contract has now a container instead of the sales table record or the form data source. It can be a data member without any problem. And in the service, we retrieve those rec IDs from the container, and we do whatever we need to do with them. And if we go here and we test it, if we go to the sales orders form and we test it, for example, let's choose 8921, we can see both sync and asynchronous executions are going to work fine. You can see here it's 18, 19, 21, and if I do it in a batch, you can go to the batch job, and the information is not lost during the way, because our container is a data member of our contract. So this should be a label. It's executing. Let's see the log. There you are, the 3 records. So that's it. I wanted to explain everything here instead of giving you directly the fish and say, yeah, you have to use a container. I wanted to go through the process of me ending up giving up and ending up using the container instead of trying to use the form data source, and also to let you know why the data member is not allowing form data sources, but even allows tables. But if we do a batch or async execution, the form data source is going to be lost anyway. So for synchronous executions, if we limit the SysOperations to only those executions, it's okay to use directly the form data source as a extra not data member variable in your data contract. That's it. Thank you for your time.